Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of A Time Out with Tony. So glad you can join me this afternoon. Now listen, if you've been following me over the last few weeks, you know I've been working on this series called The 4 Qualities of a Good Man. And today I'm going to give you the fourth and final quality that every good man has. Okay, just to recap, if you've missed any of the series of the previous 3 episodes, I would encourage you to go back and listen to them because all 4 of them will make sense as you listen as I go sequentially. But you'll get the whole basis, fundamental foundation of the characteristics that I believe every good man possesses. Okay, the first one was care, the second one was character, the third one was competence, and the fourth and final one is committed. Every good man that you know is a committed man. Now, I want to be clear when I say committed, what I'm talking about. Commitment means he's a man that you can count on. He's a committed man. When you have a committed man, he's somebody you can count on. You can pretty much bank on his word, minus extenuating circumstances. So in other words, if he says he's going to do something or he's going to be somewhere, you can pretty much count on that. You can take it to the bank. That's a man who honors his commitment. So when he says, I'm going to do something, you can expect that it'll get done. Okay. We often get caught up in the word commitment, and we see that people can let anyone down when you make a commitment. That's very something that easily can happen. But most good men, when they give you a commitment, give you their word, not only are they going to follow through just because they gave you the word, but they're going to make sure that you are happy with what they did, whatever they promised you, right? The most important thing about being commitment is not making the commitment itself. That's easy. We all can say things with our mouths and really not follow through. The most important ingredient for being a man who is committed is exactly what I just said, the follow through. That's where a lot of men get tripped up. So from this point forward, we're going to talk about what it means to be a committed man. And again, I'm going to use those 4 men from the story of Mark 2 to illustrate my point. But I want you to get in your mind now what it means to be a committed man. I like this, whenever I do this session in person, I always show this slide. It says, commitment means staying loyal to what you said you were going to do long after the mood you set it in has left you. Did you hear that? Let me read it again. Commitment means staying loyal to what you said you were going to do long after the mood you set it in has left you. In other words, we often get caught up in the emotion or in the moment, and we'll say things we're going to do, and then we don't follow through because that emotional moment we were in is now faded, and we kind of forget about the commitment we made, or we hope the person that we made it to has forgotten. So I want to even make it even more plain and simple for you. I want you to think of commitment as writing a blank check. You're making that check payable to whomever you write it to. So whenever you make a commitment, whether it's to an organization, to a person, to whatever you make it, or whomever you make it to, I want you from now on to think of making a commitment as a blank check. Again, made payable to the person who's receiving it. So, we get caught up a lot of times implicitly. We say things because they sound good, or we think they sound good. Maybe they offer comfort or assurance to the ones receiving the message. By the way, who told you they were comforting, but we think they are? It's easy to get caught up in the moment. We think of, I want you to remember, it's one thing to get caught up in the moment, but it's another thing. Think about the irreparable harm you do when you don't follow through with what you said you were going to do. And unfortunately, no one's immune to this, right? Even men of the cloth. I can't tell you the number of times I've talked to pastors, reverends, ministers, whoever, who made a commitment to help me or to help me get to the next level. And then when it was time for the follow through, they either ignored my calls or act like I didn't even exist anymore, or they hoped that I forgot when I saw them in person, or that just somehow I would just understand, they meant well, right? And that's what I'm talking about, writing a check, but not following through. When you write a check with your mouth, do you have the funds in the bank to honor that check? So whenever that person you made the commitment to decides to cash that check, will it be returned to them because of insufficient funds? In other words, you don't come through, you don't follow through, you just made it because you think it sounded good? Or will you do whatever it takes to honor your word? Be a man of character, integrity, honesty. Let me give you an example. Let's say you are, you have a good friend who just went through something tragic. Maybe his spouse just died. And I want you to pay attention to the example I'm going to give you. Obviously that's a bad situation, and you feel bad, and you want to show some sympathy, right? You want to be sympathetic and say, hey, maybe you go to your friend, hey, John, man, I'm sorry I heard about, maybe his wife passed away. Hey, I'm sorry to hear about your wife passing, man. And then you go into what we would say, if you know the person that passed away, maybe you give them a compliment. She was a dynamic woman, man. I love the way she helped the kids at the school, or, she was always willing to volunteer at the church. We usually give them a compliment we think that it'll make them feel better, that we're at least speaking highly of the person who just deceased. Now I want you to catch this, because here's where we write the check, okay? The next thing that usually comes out of our mouth is, if there's anything that I can do for you, don't hesitate to contact me. Did you catch it? Did you catch it? That's where we write the check. My mouth just said, if there's anything that I can do for you, do not hesitate to contact me. Now, I walk away, I pat myself on the back, I feel good, I just said something nice to John, words that I think are comforting to him, and I also, I think I make myself look like a good guy by saying, if there's anything I can do for you, please don't hesitate to ask me, right? I walk away, and it's forgotten. So let's say a week or two goes by. John now sees me and says, hey, Tony, remember, a couple weeks ago, man, you said if I need anything, I can always contact you. So he calls my card. He's cashing that check. That's not the time for me to say, oh, man, if you had caught me last week, man, I could have helped you a little bit. Man, I don't got nothing for you. I can't do nothing for you. Oh, now we're going to excuses. Think about the irreparable damage and harm that just did. Now I just disappointed him, right? And our relationship probably just changed. And because it's changed, I'll probably do whatever I can to avoid John now, right? Because I just wrote a check that bounced when he needed me the most. We do this implicitly all the time. We write checks with our mouths, and we don't make sure that they are being cashed. Why? Because we think it sounds good. Remember, let's go back to what I said earlier. Commitment means staying loyal to what you said you were going to do long after the mood you set it in has left you. The Bible says it this way, in Numbers 30:2. It tells us when we make a vow or take an oath to obligate ourselves, we must not break our word, but we must do everything we said we were going to do. If you're not going to follow through, you're better off not making the commitment. I don't care how nice it may sound, how empathetic it may sound, how sympathetic it may sound. If you're not going to follow through, don't write the check, because you do more harm than good. So again, before you open your mouth to write that check, think of the funds available if and whenever that person cashes that check. See, a good man will honor his commitment. Let's look at those 4 men. What were they committed, you're saying, Tony? I'm glad you asked. Remember in the story I talked about what their mission was. Their mission was to take their friend to Capernaum to be healed by Jesus. He was paralyzed, he was on the mat. Their mission was to get there. So when they get there, right, not only do they encounter a problem, which I talked about last week, right, they had to be competent to overcome that problem, but part of the mission was they had to finish it to the end. And once they did, what happened? Their friend was healed. There was a blessing attached to that, right? So they were committed. It didn't tell us how far they traveled with the gentleman, how long they carried them. But as I said in the earlier series, if you had to carry anybody human weight, it is heavy, no matter how far the distance is or how short the distance is, it is heavy. They carried their friend and they completed their mission. They were committed. Nothing could stop them. Not even the crowds when they got to the Capernaum could stop them from completing their mission. Now that's what I'm talking about. Are you that type of man where nothing will stop you from honoring your commitment? That's the kind of man you want to strive to be. And I'm going to say this again. I said it earlier, I'm going to say it again. There are plenty of good men all around you. There are good men in the prison system who are listening to this tape right now. You pass over good men. You step around them on the streets when you see them because they are maybe down on their luck. They come in all sizes, colors, shapes, religions, economical and social status. Some dress in suits, while others dress in jeans and warm-up suits. But I want you to, from this point forward, when you measure if a man is a good man, to use the 4 characteristics I've been giving you over this last 4 weeks of this series. Does he care? In other words, does he have the capacity to love? And it's a selfless act, not selfish act. Is he a man of good character? Integrity. In other words, he does the right thing because it's the right thing, even if it's not popular. Competent. Is he a problem solver? And lastly, is he a committed man? Is he a man you can count on and depend on? I want you to use that as the baseline for determining if the man in your life is a good man. Now, for my sisters who are listening to this, you have to look beyond the man's physical appearance, his job, money, and the other trappings that portray the image of success, I will guess, or appearance of success. Look at these 4 qualities of the man, and you have to remember, you have to be patient in order to see them. Some of us are a work in progress, and he may or may not be where he wants to be today, but his words and consistent actions will line up to reveal these 4 qualities, that they are a part of his DNA. He's a good man, and he's worthy of your love and affection to help him climb to the next level. Again, I want to just remind you, when you make that commitment, make sure you think of it as writing a blank check to the person who you're issuing it to. And whenever they decide to cash it, you're going to honor it because you are a committed man. Your word means everything, and you understand that there is irreparable damage when you don't come through. Now, I'm not talking about if there's extenuating circumstances that cause you not to come through. Obviously, we know that happens. Life happens. But don't just blow a person off. If you can't make the commitment, don't open your mouth. If you said you're going to volunteer, you should be there. If you're going to make a commitment to volunteer at a center or whatever, be there. They shouldn't have to call you 5 times, send you multiple emails, send you multiple texts to remind you. Why? Because you know in your own mind and psyche that you committed to something. You should be the first one there. All right? So again, when you make that commitment, honor it. Every good man that you know of is a committed man. He's honoring his commitment, and he will do whatever it takes to complete the mission, complete the assignment, just like those 4 men did in the story of Mark 2. Now, for my guys who are listening, I want you to repeat after me and mean this and say it with all sincerity. I am a good man. I am a man who cares for and about others. I am a man of good character. I am a competent man. And I am a man who is committed to my faith, my family, and the community. Well, that's it for today's Time Out. I sincerely hope you found this series helpful and inspirational. And just, again, use this as your baseline measurement of who a good man is or what a good man is. Stop just looking at the outward appearance. We know that that is temporary, right? Some people have the appearance of being successful. We think that they're good people, but inside they're not. Their characteristics don't line up with being a good man. I hope you use the four characteristics I've been sharing with you over the last 4 weeks of this series as a baseline measurement. But I believe every good man that you know, or I know for every good man that I've known, he has possessed those 4 qualities. And it's without a doubt. I didn't say he was a perfect man. None of us are perfect. But a man who's worth investing in has those 4 qualities. Listen, if you are being encouraged by this podcast, you can leave feedback on the platform you're listening to or viewing today's show, or you can contact me directly at timeout@tonyrprice.com. Let me give you that email again. That's timeout@tonyrprice.com. I'd love to hear from you. You can also find me on social media and on many of the platforms. Your feedback is welcome. If you want me to discuss certain topics or you're just enjoying the show and it's really helping you, I would love to hear your feedback. So until our next time out, remember to be safe, give thanks, and look for opportunities to encourage and serve others. Now it's time to get back in the game. God bless.